In the quaint village of Willowbrook, nestled amid the rolling green hills of the English countryside, where ancient oaks whispered secrets to the wind and wildflowers, danced along the hedgerows in a perpetual ballet of color, lived Eliza Hawthorne. At 24, Eliza was the epitome of quiet grace, a schoolteacher with chestnut curls that framed her heart-shaped face like a gentle halo, and eyes the color of stormy seas that held depths of unspoken dreams. Her days unfolded in the ivy-cloaked stone schoolhouse at the village's heart, where she guided wide-eyed children through tales of knights and dragons, their laughter echoing off the walls like chimes in a summer breeze. Her evenings were softer, spent in the embrace of her mother's rose garden, the air thick with the sweet perfume of blooms that seemed to nod in approval as she wandered the paths, lost in thought. Her father, a gentle soul lost to the war's cruel grasp years before, had left behind an old guitar that Eliza would strum absent-mindedly by the fire, its strings humming melodies of longing and loss. Life in Willowbrook moved like the brook that wound through its center, steady, predictable, with the occasional ripple of excitement from a village fete or a sudden downpour that turned the lanes to mud. Eliza had known every face since her toddling days. The baker with his flour-dusted apron, the postmistress who dispensed gossip as freely as stamps, the elderly vicar whose sermons wove scripture with local lore. She dreamed of more, though of a love that rivaled the windswept passions in her well-worn Bront novels, where heroines roamed moors and claimed hearts as fiercely as they claimed the wind. But contentment wrapped around her like a woolen shawl. Willowbrook was home, its rhythms her own. That fragile peace shattered one crisp April morning when the village awoke to the rumble of an unfamiliar engine. A sleek black car sliced through the mist-shrouded lanes, turning heads at every thatched cottage it passed. Out stepped Theo Blackwood, a 27-year-old architect from the clamor of London, dispatched by the city council to breathe life into the dilapidated Hawthorne Manor, her family's ancestral home, crumbling under the weight of time and neglect. Tall and broad-shouldered, with tousled dark hair that caught the light like raven feathers and a smile that could melt the frost from the church windows, Theo exuded the polished energy of the metropolis. He rented a modest cottage by the brook, its diamond-paned windows overlooking the very willow tree where Eliza often sought solace with a book in hand. Their first encounter unfolded like a scene from one of her cherished romances, serendipitous and charged with the electricity of unspoken possibility. Eliza was perched on a mossy stone by the water's edge, her sketchpad balanced on her knee as she captured the delicate veins of wild primroses in soft pencil strokes. The brook gurgled softly, a companionable murmur, when footsteps crunched on the gravel path behind her. She glanced up to find Theo, his own sketchpad tucked under one arm, his green eyes alight with curiosity as he studied the arched stone bridge that spanned the water. "Pardon me," he said, his voice carrying the refined lilt of London streets, smooth as aged whiskey, "but you're trespassing on my inspiration." The words hung in the air, teasing yet warm, and Eliza felt a flush creep up her neck. She laughed, a bright, unbidden sound like bells tinkling in the breeze, and tilted her head. "Only if you promise not to capture my likeness without permission, Mr. Blackwood." Theo Blackwood, he extended a hand, callous from blueprints and tools. And when their fingers met, a spark jumped between them, as real as summer lightning. "And you are Eliza Hawthorne." She rose, brushing dew from her skirts, and in that moment, the world narrowed to the space between them, the ripple of water, the rustle of leaves, the tentative bridge of their smiles. From that dawn, their worlds intertwined like ivy on stone. Theo's days were consumed by the manor's resurrection, dusty halls echoing with the scrape of ladders and the thud of hammers as he unearthed forgotten frescoes beneath layers of grime, mended cracked arches that groaned like weary bones, and coaxed life back into overgrown gardens where statues peeked from tangles of briar. But his evenings, those golden hours when the sun dipped low and painted the hills in hues of amber and rose, belonged utterly to Eliza. They wandered the meadows hand in hand, the grass whispering against their ankles, sharing picnics by the brook laden with scones slathered in clotted cream, strawberries bursting with juice, and flasks of elderflower cordial that fizzed on the tongue. At the village fete, under strings of fairy lights that twinkled like captured stars, they danced to the squeeze-box strains of folk tunes, Theo's hand firm at her waist, guiding her through reels that left her breathless and laughing. He was a storyteller, Theo, spinning yarns of London's glittering spires that pierced the smoggy sky, hidden alleys alive with the cries of street vendors, and opera houses where chandeliers dripped light like molten gold. Eliza countered with Willowbrook's folklore, the spectral wanderings of Lady Eliza, the manor's long-ago mistress, forever searching fog-shrouded gardens for her vanished lover. Her cries carried on autumn gales. Sounds like a tragedy waiting to unfold, Theo would tease, his green eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. But in their depths, Eliza glimpsed not peril, but a profound promise, or a romance reborn. She would whisper back, her voice barely audible over the heartbeat thundering in her ears. Part 5, The Gift of Promise. As spring unfurled into the lazy warmth of summer, their bond deepened, roots burrowing into soil rich with trust and tenderness. One evening, as they lay on a blanket amid a sea of foxgloves, tall spires of pink and purple nodding like conspirators, Theo reached into his pocket and withdrew a silver locket, its surface etched with the graceful curve of a willow tree. "To hold the memories we make," he murmured, fastening it around her neck with fingers that trembled ever so slightly. The metal was cool against her skin, but his touch ignited a fire that spread through her veins. Eliza's heart swelled like the brook after rain. She confided in her mother, Margaret, over cups of chamomile tea in the rose-scented kitchen. Margaret, a widow with silver threads weaving through her auburn hair and eyes, softened by years of quiet endurance, listened with a gentle smile, though lines of worry etched her brow. "He's different, Mum, like he stepped from the pages of a book, but he sees me." Truly sees the woman beneath the teacher. Margaret squeezed her hand. "London men have a way of charming with words and wonders, dear, but roots run deep in Willowbrook. Be sure his are willing to grow alongside yours." The village, ever a tapestry of whispers and watchful eyes, murmured its approvals. Old Mrs. Hargrove at the post office clucked her tongue over the counter, parcels forgotten in her lap. "A fine match that. The city's got nothing on our Eliza. She'll ground him like these hills." Even the children in her classroom caught the contagion of joy, their chants during lessons laced with mischief. "Miss Hawthorne, is Mr. Blackwood your knight in shining blueprints?" Eliza would blush, feigning sternness, but inside, dreams bloomed wild and unchecked. A wedding in the manor's ancient chapel, vows exchanged under vaulted ceilings alive with the ghosts of ancestors, a life that bridged the pastoral hush of Willowbrook with the electric pulse of London. Children with Theo's roguish smile and her unruly curls, racing through gardens she would tend with the same love she poured into her lessons. One golden evening, as the sun surrendered to twilight and fireflies began their ethereal waltz across the meadows, Theo led her to the manor's terrace, now restored to its former glory, stone balustrades gleaming under lanterns, jasmine climbing trellises in fragrant rebellion. The air hummed with the chorus of crickets, and the scent of earth after rain mingled with the wild sweetness of honeysuckle. He dropped to one knee on the flagstones, a simple gold ring catching the last rays of light like a captured sunbeam. "Eliza," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "you've turned this dusty old relic into a home, breathed soul into its stones. Marry me. Let's build our forever here, where the willows weep for joy and the brook sings our names." Tears traced silver paths down her cheeks as she nodded, pulling him to his feet and into an embrace that tasted of salt and endless summer. "Yes, Theo, 1,000 times yes." Their kiss sealed it, deep and fervent, as if the very stars above bent to witness. Letters winged their way to London like carrier pigeons, bearing glad tidings, announcements to Theo's estranged family. A cool aunt and uncle who stewarded his late parents' vast estate with the precision of accountants. Eliza penned notes to distant cousins in Edinburgh and Brighton, her quill dancing across paper in a frenzy of joy. Plans swirled like leaves in an autumn gale, a harvest wedding when the fields turned to gold, the brook as their eternal witness, the ancient oaks standing sentinel as guests. Theo promised the world trips to Paris for their honeymoon, a nursery in the manor wing, but Eliza needed only him, his hand in hers, his laughter chasing away the shadows of solitude. Yet, even in paradise, shadows stir. Theo's phone began to buzz with insistent urgency. Calls from the city laced with the clipped tones of deadlines and demands. "Just work, love," he'd murmur, pressing a kiss to her forehead that lingered a fraction too long, as if to apologize. Eliza trusted him, her faith as unshakable as the hills. But a quiet doubt took root, faint as the first frost nipping at dawn, a rumble of thunder on a horizon too distant to heed. Autumn sighed into Willowbrook with a painter's brush, leaves igniting in crimson and gold, mirroring the flush that still warmed Eliza's cheeks at Theo's touch. The manor's restoration neared its triumphant close, a monument to his artistry, arches soaring anew, gardens bursting with salvaged roses and lavender that perfumed the air like a lover's sigh. But Theo grew distant, a subtle shift like the turning of tides. Late nights bent over blueprints in the library stretched into solitary walks by the brook, his silhouette etched against the moonlit water. The city's pulling at me, he confessed one evening as they huddled by the fire in her cottage, flames crackling like unspoken fears. Deadlines, investors, nothing I can't handle. Eliza nodded, stirring her tea with mechanical precision to mask the unease coiling in her chest. But the locket at her throat felt heavier, a talisman turned anchor. Then came Victoria Langford, sweeping into the village like a tempest cloaked in silk, a 25-year-old heiress from the gilded cages of Theo's London world, blonde and poised as a porcelain doll, with sapphire eyes that appraised everything, and a laugh like the effervescence of champagne uncorked at midnight. Victoria was announced as a consultant for the project's final flourish, overseeing designs with the imperious wave of a manicured hand. But Eliza saw the truth in the way. Victoria's fingers lingered on Theo's arm during site inspections, the shared glances over steaming mugs at the village pub that spoke volumes no words could capture. It began innocently enough, a group dinner in the manor's hall, candlelight flickering on silver and crystal as Victoria regaled the villagers with tales of Mayfair galas and Riviera yachts. Theo, darling, remember that riotous night at the opera? You spilled claret on the Duke's boots? She purred, her hand brushing his sleeve, and he chuckled a low, rumbling sound that twisted like a knife in Eliza's gut, for it was the laugh he reserved for their private moments. Later, in the quiet of her cottage, Eliza confronted him gently, her voice a thread of vulnerability. She's forward, isn't she? Like a character from one of those society novels. Theo pulled her close, his arms a fortress against the chill seeping through the walls. Just an old colleague from the firm, Eliza, someone I knew in passing. You're my world, the only one that matters. His words were balm, soothing the raw edges of doubt. And under the canopy of stars that night, they made love for the first time, a desperate, fervent reclaiming on a bed of wild grasses by the brook. The moon bore witness, silvering their skin. And for a stolen season, peace reigned once more, fragile as spun glass.
Winter descended on Willowbrook like a velvet shroud, frosting the thatched roofs and turning the brook to a crystalline ribbon. Eliza immersed herself in wedding plans to ward off the chill. Mistletoe twined through the manor's hall. A Yule log dragged from the ancient woods to crackle in the hearth. Invitations etched on cream vellum promising joy in the heart of the hills. Theo's absences grew, his returns laced with exhaustion and excuses that tasted of ash. Then, on a bitter December eve when snowflakes dusted the lanes like forgotten confetti, a letter arrived, not in Theo's bold script, but from a London solicitor, its wax seal gleaming like a mocking eye. Enclosed was a clipping from a society page in the Times. The headline stark: Theodore Blackwood to wed Victoria. Langford in spring splendor at St. Paul's Cathedral. Photographs accompanied it. Theo, dashing in tailcoat, Victoria radiant in lace, their hands entwined over a crystal flute. At the bottom, in ink as black as betrayal, Theo's signature scrawled its consent. Eliza's world fractured in that instant, shards of trust scattering like ice on stone. The paper trembled in her numb fingers, the room spinning in a vortex of white-hot agony. She bolted into the blizzard, skirts whipping around her legs, the manor a looming specter through veils of snow. Her fists hammered the oaken door until it yielded, Theo standing there disheveled, Victoria's cloying, perfume, jasmine laced with ambition, clinging to his shirt like a stain. Eliza, his face drained of color, green eyes wide with the guilt of the damned. You promised, she choked, the clipping thrust forward like a dagger. The ring, the manor, our life under these willows, it was all a lie? A pretty interlude before you returned to your real world? Victoria emerged from the shadows, poised as a queen in exile, her silk dressing gown a whisper of opulence. Theo's gaze darted between them, a man adrift. I never meant to hurt you. Victoria, she offers stability. Eliza, my family's legacy, the firm, connections that Willowbrook can't touch. This place, our dreams, It was beautiful, but reality is London. She's the future I was always meant for. Words clawed at Eliza's throat, raw and ragged. You saw me, Theo. You looked into my soul and promised forever. The locket, did it mean nothing? Our nights by the fire, the dances, the ring on my finger. He stepped forward, hand outstretched, but she recoiled as if burned. It meant everything, he whispered, his voice cracking like thin ice. But love isn't always enough. Sometimes it's ambition, security, things I can't ignore. Victoria glided closer, her voice cool as January's breath. Darling, let's not prolong the dramatics. Eliza, you're sweet as these village wildflowers. But Theo needs more than quaint tales and country air. He needs a partner who matches his world. The words landed like lashes, stripping Eliza bare. With a sob that tore from her depths, she wrenched the locket from her neck, the chain biting into her skin before snapping free. She hurled it at his feet, where it skittered across the flagstones, springing open to reveal their photograph, smiling, entwined, a moment frozen in cruel irony. Keep your future, she spat, turning into the night, the snow swallowing her cries as she ran, the world blurring into white oblivion. The village wrapped around her like a mother's arms in the days that followed, scorched the earth and rose unbroken, her spirit a beacon for wanderers yet to come. In the quiet evenings, as the brook sang its eternal lullaby and the willows swayed in gentle approval, Eliza whispered to the wind that carried her words across the hills, forever is mine to claim, woven from threads of my own making. And in that claiming, she found not just healing, but a love profounder than any promise. A love for the woman she had become, fierce and free, etched eternally into the heart of the countryside that had cradled her, through the storm.
The village bloomed around her children's voices, cascading through the manor like a new river, roses thrusting petals toward the sun in silent acclaim. She took up her quill once more, not for letters of longing, but for a novel born of her scars, a tale of a woman who loved deeply, lost with a ferocity that